Hello, and welcome to That's Just Human. It's a podcast that explores all aspects of being human, living in a human body, and having human experiences. I'm Elisha LightAngel, your host, and by day I'm a massage therapist. Then I also do this and dabble in all sorts of other things. And just like you, I also happen to live in a human body and I have human experiences, so we've got something in common. Today, I'm really excited to introduce my guest. She is a longtime friend and soul sister from another mister, and I'm really proud to have her in my life. And now we're going to get to hear some of her story. She is also a licensed massage therapist, and she specializes in craniosacral therapy. She's located in Dallas, Texas. So if you're in the area and you want to experience her beautiful offerings, that's where you know to go. So please welcome my dear friend, Sarah Dierking.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for coming on today and being willing to share some of your story and your journey. I'm excited to hear more. I guess maybe the best place to start, and we can kind of bunny trail or work backwards, forwards, however that transpires. But craniosacral therapy, which is something I'm familiar with as a massage therapist, but I'm not actually trained. I am familiar with it as in I've heard a little bit about it, but I don't actually know a lot about it. But you have deep dived in your life on this, and it's been an integration tool. So tell me a little bit more about how it is that you decided to take this as your specialty, niche, and modality, and how that's weaved into your life.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with a very basic, the first question I heard you ask is what is craniosacral therapy? And, less words. So what this basically is, it's a light touch therapy. So it is hands on the body, but it believes more in like releasing deeper restrictions using light forces. So it's not quite energy work because we are working in the tissues, but the thought is with that light force, we can actually affect deeper processes, right? And just kind of come back to this practice of neutrality and being with. And so when you practice with light forces, what that really pretty much gives you the availability to do as a practitioner is that we hear or maybe let's reframe hearing because some people think hearing and you're hearing something with your ears. You're able to feel and notice the direction in which your client's body wants to take you. And so there's different kinds of palpation skills that we learn as craniosacral therapists. And one of the main things that we're grounding into is the craniosacral rhythm. So that would be the rhythm of the cerebral spinal fluid from the cranium all the way down to the sacrum. And that goes all the way, where you have that brain, the spinal cord that goes down. There's this flow that's happening. And just like with any other rhythm, like it's really just the tool in which we ground, right? You could ground into somebody's respiratory rhythm or their heart rhythm or, whatever that is. And often in the advanced practices, we can really kind of get really granular with what rhythms we are putting our attention to. And that can be the rhythm of, somebody speaking their story, right? And hearing those words that seem significant. And so it is really also that too, of being able to just witness somebody in this really neutral space and find a significant process that needs some resourcing or support. I don't know if that was a really good way to say it, if that gave you a kind of a clear understanding. Again, it's something that goes down so many paths of what that can look like in a session for who's on the table. So it can go from we're just looking for nervous system regulation to, really exploring your own inner landscape to something that's like, oh, like I have a knee injury and now because we worked with fascia restrictions, it's resolved. So it really it's really just this whole being perspective, right? When we look at our clients, and that would be, maybe even slightly different from a medical context where we're just looking at parts, So anyways, yeah, I can go on and on, obviously, about what cranial is. It's something that's very big to my heart. And part of the path that led me here was, really my journey of trying to discover my wholeness. At the heart of that, of just kind of the transformation of my why question as I went along that journey is, on some level, I felt like my why was, why am I so broken? Why, like, how do I fix myself? And
Mm.
slowly over time, through body work, through spiritual work, through all of these different contexts, I've really just learned to evolve my question. And even just from a trauma informed standpoint as well, sometimes that question switches from why am I broken to, hey, what happened to you? How are you responding? And what can be different in your life? And so that's been a really great I don't know, I guess question to form myself and form my life to something that fits more authentically to me of why am I doing this? What's my needs? And how can I make my life a little bit more attuned to what's true about me? And that's, essentially as I've gone through that process of evolution, like just really feeling that call to hold people in their own evolutions, whatever that is for them.
I really like that. I like the mind shift because I truly believe that nobody's actually broken. It's a story that is rampant in society, and lots of people tell themselves I'm broken or I'm this or I'm that, but the truth is, like you said, what has happened to me? What did I do to form these patterns that I am now acting out? And how can I shift this moving forward, as opposed to I'm just broken and now I have to deal with it. So that's really cool that this has actually helped you to dive deeper, not just something for the body, but it involves the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, all parts. Yeah.
So when we had spoken before this interview, you had mentioned that a big part of your journey was delving into ayahuasca, and that the craniosacral therapy has been something that you've added to integrate those experiences. Can you speak a little on that?
Yeah. So that's, kind of a funny call and response. Like I often feel like I have this relationship with the universe and my higher self of I call in it a question and it responds. And so yeah, the first response to answer my question was ayahuasca. And in that experience and in that journey, so just for some background too, with psychedelics, that's been something that's been a big part of my life since I was about 17 years old. It was really something that took me out of a dark place and gave me rainbows back, right?
Mm.
And this is, I don't know if you've ever noticed about me, I do love my rainbows. It's a
Me
big part of
too.
my
Me
energy.
too.
Um, and it really helped me to start that progress of really like breaking that dissolution, right? Because I think that consciousness has these different levels in which we function at depending on like what's available to you, right? And if you're trying to live a life that's not true to yourself, you're probably spending an awful lot of energy to try to fit a mold that you don't belong to. And so basically I had gotten to a place in life where things weren't working for me. I got very sick. My marriage was failing. And yeah, it was really that like, what do I need to do? Da, 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 da. And so really like I took a really big risk. Eventually just started my spiritual path, basically gave away all my belongings and decided to see where the journey took me. And that's not something I think that most people have like a privilege to do. And I'm very blessed that I had this opportunity, like so blessed that I had even gotten a big sum of money about it to do that. Like it just kind of dropped out. And um, in that environment too, after like, all of this, had trained with Zendu as far as holding space for other people in psychedelic spaces. So I was already really very interested in this dynamic and that experience and that consciousness and everything. And so in my experience with ayahuasca, really like it had got me to this point where I was still struggling with my mental health and doing all these things, but not really getting the results that I had thought would happen. Um, and, slowly, I think there was this one significant ceremony I had where it was literally me versus mind. And so my brain's up here and I'm sitting here trying to just conceptualize and analyze and da 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 during this experience. And I'm, working with another practitioner healer. And he was like, "Oh, come down to your heart, come down to your heart." And it was literally like a visceral feeling coming down to here. And it had felt like my mind was like trying to pin me down. It's like, no, we can't do that. And so it made me really curious. And I'm like, what is this disconnection from my body? Like, what is being protected here, right? Like obviously, yeah, just through huge analyzing. So that's really what got me into body work, was really making that conscious effort to make it a mental problem into an understanding of my whole system. From there, um, and I know we have an hour, but there's still like so much of my story that I'm like, I still, when I say this, I'm like, I could write you a novel about the trails and things that happened in the story. From there, different journeys happened, a lot of opportunities to be in psychedelic spaces, and really just this understanding of, coming up into this spiritual part was really only still half the equation, because once we know something, then you have to experience and practice it and really make it something grounded. And so that's really where cranial sacral came in for me. I had been through a series of really big, events and processes, like big traumatic event. We went traveling in California, like there was this mass shooting we were witness to, and forest fires and crises back home, and that experience, like my whole system shut down. And I don't think, like, I'm finally at a point where I can see the through line of it, but like literally my stomach quit working. I lost a lot of weight. I had to come home. I had to start my career from scratch, and basically just really enter that whole dark night of the soul, where I had gone from this place feeling super connected, really put me back, way back down here to, let's find baby steps out of the cave. And somebody at one point, so I think too, like with that complication, like had been in car accidents, and like that's kind of interesting to talk about too. But I had finally had this one car accident that I felt knocked me back into alignment. Like I got hit by a semi, because I had this car that was breaking down. Like literally the car almost broke down on me before I got hit by a semi. And because of that, like it just opened this door for me to finally get the care I needed. I got chiropractic care. I was able to get a car that I needed. And then I received my first cranial sacral session. And it was like for the first time ever, somebody gave me my brain back. Like I had been walking around in life like this, just compressed. And then somebody finally gave me room and I could move again. And so once that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to know this. Like I need to know what this is. And like everybody should be doing this. And so yeah, that was kind of the bunny trail of how I got to know cranial sacral therapy. Was just a very kind individual was like, hey, let me help you.
Well, I will say maybe someday you should write a book, because amazing experiences deserve to be written down and shared if you're willing to share. I've also heard it's very cathartic to write a book and that you do healing processes. I haven't been there. I just listen to other people talk about things that they've done in life. Mm-hmm. So I'm really intrigued. When did you study massage therapy? Like, was it during the process in life where you were doing ayahuasca and then cranial sacral came later, or did you already study that and then kind of enter into this more spiritual aspect?
With my massage education, actually came a step into more of a service mode into ayahuasca, with working with ayahuasca. I really had felt in my experiences like there was this crossroads. Like this was literally the image I had when this decision presented. I was taking the medicine. I had been experienced with it by at least 3 years at this point. And the medicine said, like, we could go one way. And then it was like, these problems that you're having, we could go this one way. But Sarah, you kind of already know, we've talked about this. And then it was like, or you could be in service to others. And so that was kind of like medicine lifted, and these opportunities to really just be with other people in that context really started to open up in a very natural way. And that experience is so invaluable, right? And so did this really beautiful thing with my bodywork career that I was able to start helping with retreat centers while also practicing my craft. And so I had this really beautiful opportunity to work with people at this level of their spiritual journey, which is not, completely normal when you open a massage practice. And just, the questions, the curiosities is like, as I started to like watch and learn how to help other people, like what people were showing me about the human condition and the things where we are the same and the connectivity and the oneness and yeah, it was a beautiful arc that I got to grow my bodywork career alongside this opportunity to work so closely with plant medicine.
That's really cool. I
Mm-hmm.
find it interesting that you went through like a spiritual awakening and leveling up through utilizing ayahuasca as a medicine, but then you had a crash and experienced a dark night of the soul. Because, like, for me, mine's opposite. I experienced the dark night of the soul and then moved into a spiritual awakening post dark night of the soul. And how does that play out for you? Like, did your experiences prior to that help you in some of the darkness so that you could move out?
I think so. I think that there's also something to be said, like as a caveat, like I would definitely not recommend my path as a remedy for anybody because apparently Sarah really loves intense experiences. A lot of my wisdoms come from a lot of wrong turns, and maybe they're not wrong turns, but let me just say this: wisdom is earned; it's not given. And that is very much so. If you are working with plant medicine, with anything spiritual too, like be, in some sense, be careful what you ask for, but also like buy the ticket, take the ride. Literally have that as a tattoo right here. Um, and it's okay to make mistakes because it's going to bring you beautiful lessons. So I think on some level with, this experience of being with the medicine, but like, I had pretty much was doing like 3 night ceremonies once a month. It's a
Wow.
lot. And I know, the backlog of that, if you don't have that integration time, what that can turn into is big experiences that will make you sit down. And that's also what I learned with like the intelligence of the body. Like, I feel like at this point, we're kind of talking about these intelligences that have emergence and within nature, within you. And if you have the right kind of ears to hear it, it doesn't need to scream at you so loud. So I feel like that was kind of part of it. The best decision I could have made at the time was an intense one. And it really taught me a lot about humanity, like, because I went through that, had this big falling out with my community, traveled across the state via car, doing couch surfing and, $900 in my massage table. And, the journey was 3 months long. And really what happened with that too is this really beautiful opportunity because it didn't have a timeline, it didn't have a set destination, that it really just allowed for all these really awesome human interactions at a level that I don't think people often take the time to see the world at that level, right? Like, we're talking about communities, nomadic communities, right, that never really get talked about in mainstream media. You're talking about, folks that live on the street. There was one time we went busking and this one guy like lived on the street and he came in and he just invited us in like it was his home, right? And he was like, "Hey, over here, follow me." He's like, "Over here, you can get food here. And if you need a place to stay, here's another place." Like, literally, people off the street invited us into their, the home, which at that point is like your heart, right? And that was a really beautiful experience to just capture people and see people while also really taking off the veil that we live in this bubble, right? Because I had lived in Dallas, Texas my entire life, and I only know the drama and the trauma around here. And really, you hear about the rest of it on the news. And then just to get out there and be with people, like, was such an awakening experience. I'm like, oh my gosh, the world really is in crisis, like all the time. And their crisis is so different from how I understand what's going on in my local communities. And so it was really informative, but it was also really hard, for my own system to really handle that. And I think that my heart sometimes is way more forward than the rest of me, drags my human along kicking and screaming. And yeah, so, and there was also a very beautiful and intimate wisdom of what it felt like to pull yourself out of that, you know.
Mm.
And in some sense too, I think that's also why people get attracted to work with me as a therapist, because on some level I have that really deep experiential understanding of like, hey, what does it feel like to come out of chronic pain and disillusionment and, you know, really deep like grief, in
Mm.
some sense, and be able to just, you know, still be showing your heart to the world. And I think, you know, that's kind of part of it too. Like if you're living with a closed heart, like you probably won't have this much hurt, but then where's the fun in that? Because joy and pain are, you know, sisters in the same coin,
Mm.
and you can't let one in without the other one coming in, and that's just part of, again, the wholeness of it. I don't know if
Yeah,
I answered your question. I just kind of like went on the tangent, but
that's okay. I'm good with tangents.
okay.
Hopefully my listeners are good with tangents
Yeah.
too. So I'm really intrigued because for me as a massage therapist too, a lot of my own journey has been about coming into my body and like learning to not be so in my head, disassociated, which I spent a good part of my life doing. And so I like how you say the intelligence of the body. Yeah,
Mm.
our body does have an intelligence, and I would love to know for you how specifically you've really tapped into some of that intelligence in your body and merged it with the intelligence of your mind and emotions and spiritual aspects.
I think at first, like, it was like maybe some of my first baby steps towards this would have been adopting mindfulness practices, self-compassion practices. Again, kind of coming from that lens of just being somebody, you know, neurodivergent. I had, you know, diagnosed ADD when I was little, and always had this impression just from my family upbringing and that Sarah's doing it wrong, right? So we learned to internalize that invalidation a lot of the information that is actually coming to us in the way that we think, because it's not what the standard's looking for. So the first part of that really was that acceptance, right? First, I had to just accept myself, and then as I started to get really curious about how my brain was actually processing, which is something like I've picked up a lot from cranial sacral therapy, right? And we talk about images and dialogue and how the body communicates, because like body doesn't really communicate in you know, logical words like linear time, right? It's that linearness, right? That we experience the world in this linear straight line, and that's not really like the stuff of the body. Like the body is very much like non-conscious image. Some people, I like to call it like, you know, sometimes we have these 5 channels, and in this culture and society we really value the thinking channel, and most people operate in thinking channel and analyzing channel. But you also have your image channel, you have your felt sense channel, right? Like the I can't think of the words right now. And then you have like your knowing that comes up. You have some people hear auditory. Like I don't know that that's one of my special ones too, but that became a process of figuring out that language too with ayahuasca. Because for the longest time, like I want to say like the first couple ayahuasca ceremonies I had, I didn't get that, like, you know, with the perceived like experience where it's going to be this big thing like you see in the paintings and there's jaguars and all of a sudden I'm somewhere else. It would literally just be me like being present to what was happening in front of me, to look and listen. And for the longest time at first in that journey, I kept devaluing that experience, right? The fact that I'm sitting here and I'm looking at something, and now I'm feeling really frustrated that I'm not that person and I'm not having that experience. And then one day it dawned on me that, like, oh my gosh, it's the frustration. The frustration is what's coming up in this experience for me to look at. And I just thought it was me, right? And, you know, so there's really like this process of separating the essence of what you truly are with your experiences, because I think we can over identify the experiences we have with who we are. And once you can make that practice to really come into the objective and just be with that, so much unfolds. So that's really how I started to pick apart the trail of what was my inner wisdom, that my feelings and my emotions were just as valid as the thoughts and logic of somebody else. It's just a different kind of intelligence. Yeah, I think that kind of answered your question. But
Yeah.
yeah, and so from there, it's like I'll really kind of help people kind of break that barrier too, in a session, if that's what they choose to do. Pick your own adventure, but really just getting into the why of things, right? And we'll get into noticing of like, yeah, I'm going about my day and this thing happens, and then you have this like really big reaction out of nowhere, instead of just being like, well, it was that thing, and getting really blamey at the outside. That thing really did this and it blah 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 blah. Like really kind of scaling it back to like, wait a minute, what do I truly believe in myself, and why doesn't this match? And then the question became, well, who is that? In a
Yeah.
sense too. I'm even talking about like, that's still me, but like, at what age am I? What just came up in me? Was this my inner child at like age 8, and somebody hurt her feelings, and now this emotion comes up as her representation, right? And then that kind of can get into the whole, I hear a lot of people talk about inner child work and how that's helpful in therapy. And but yeah, it was just really starting to like listen to myself and really start to like all of these parts that is a collective of Sarah, like give them all a place at the table,
Mm.
and really be with that. Yeah.
So when you describe this, I'm thinking this sounds like a lot more mental work, sitting in reflection and just really, I guess maybe allowing the thoughts or some of the deeper wisdom points to come to you.
Mhm.
Is that how you process it, or do you journal? Did you do breath work? Did you like do any specific actions
Um,
to go through this?
so there is that, specific actions. So I would say my brain type, I am a verbal processor. There is part of me that is processing in connection with others that I notice, and I have to kind of um, be mindful about that sometimes, because not everybody works that way, and it's not necessarily welcome. Um, Stay in my lane. I also really enjoy art. That's been really helpful for me to make something objective, because I'm still strengthening my visual information input, like in my process right now. So being able to take that out of my head and look at it is good. Same with journaling. Like, what is that? I think it's like the artist way. And she has this really excellent exercise where you just write 3 pages of like stream of consciousness. These are really great ways to get the things outside of you and look at it objectively. Meditation, sometimes, really getting into the felt sense. I like this perspective of, going on a walk. And there's a teacher, her name's Suzanne Duran Skurlock. She has these really beautiful meditations of tuning into different parts of your body, and how we neglect the wisdom of the legs, and how sometimes if you're like really up here, noticing that shift when you get out to start walking in nature, and really accessing the lower part of your body, to see how it resolves with that felt sense. So there's so many like creative ways to really practice, and I feel like I am one of those people. I'm like, I want to do all the things. Um, and my most consistent, again, would just be coming back to stillness. And yeah, just coming back to stillness over and over again. Accept self acceptance when I can't come to stillness, and realize that that's for a reason too. So that's my daily practice, is accepting where I'm at, and then we make it from there. But yeah, there's so many beautiful, like, songs are a really good way too, like getting lost in music. And um yeah, I could go on.
Yeah. No, I really like that, coming back to stillness, which is a mindfulness practice, because it's not a natural thing that most of us do, or at least not the people in my circle. Like you said, you're diagnosed ADD, and I've been contemplating lately. I'm not diagnosed, but as I think about a lot of my traits, I'm like, Am I maybe on the ADHD spectrum because all my friends pretty much have it, and I just love like anyone that has ADD. I'm like, you're a cool person, and I want to be
Yeah.
friends with you. And then I skip around all the time. I've got like 100 tabs open on my screen because I'm gonna do all these things. And same as you, I'm like, I want to experience it all, do it all, just put myself in wild situations that I don't feel is people's normal course of living life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, practicing stillness, and I feel it's hard when you have a busy brain to practice stillness, and
Mhm.
that's why it becomes that practice. So speaking of like getting into the body, when you do a session, because I'm really interested, are you talking people through sensations that they're feeling when you're doing that? Are you working with some of the stuff that they're going through on a mental or emotional level? Or are they silent sessions?
Um, all of the above. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but yeah. So how I like to design my sessions is really centered in the client taking the lead. And so it looks a little bit different from like what maybe a regular spa session would look like of like you're on a time crunch and we got to get this done in 50 minutes. We got to turn over the table. We got to do this, hi, bye, rebook, whatever. And there's not a lot of talking, because you're in a massage and, when everybody has different viewpoints as therapists, what's the appropriate way to speak and blah, 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 blah. So my sessions look a little bit more like you might come to see me and I'll ask you really open-ended questions. Like, how are you doing today? Thoughts, energy, what is your levels? And just let them offer what that is for them. And then we create a plan for the session. And so that gives them an opportunity to speak what's coming up in the moment. Because I'll usually do a check in too, like, how are you feeling right here in this moment? If that's the focus, what does your body feel like today? And then from there, we go to the table. So cranial sacral is fully clothed most of the time, unless we're doing some integration with massage therapy. It's really beautiful to blend these sessions. And yeah, so I've had anywhere from people that are really maybe struggling for the connection. Those sessions might look a little bit like, it's like they don't really have a developmental articulation of what's happening, right? And so you might ask this person, like, hey, how are you feeling in their body? And they're like, I feel fine. That's not really the question I asked, but they're like, I'm fine. And then, just slowly being like, okay, that's cool. Like, can you feel the presence of my hand here? What does the table feel like? And so, because there are some people that need a little bit of guidance, right? And some people will straight up ask you for that. They're like, hey, if you could tell me what you're doing while you do it, that would be really cool. And like, what's fun about that is like, I'll start telling people what I'm doing, and then they just naturally relax, right? And then they're gone, they might be snoring a little bit. And they really just like felt safe enough to go inside. So there's a little bit of that. And I always kind of like to think of it as, you know, in massage therapy, we're always kind of talking about tissues, and always an endpoint or a barrier, right? And then to find release, we're really just kind of working for that until it lets us in deeper. And honestly, I would say those barriers began like way out here before somebody can like let you in to their system safer, right? Like, and just being able to feel that in of like even how somebody enters a room, where are they sitting in that room in relation to you, and how can we make that feel safer? So there's different ways to kind of like get at it. And then there's some people that are like, I got this thing, I'm going to therapy, and this da 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 comes on, and then they'll verbally process their images, and I can track in their body where that is, and we can pause and we can let that come up. And so, and then that might get into the emotional release realm if that's what they desire to do. They may have a big image in their mind, and having that helpful person there to repeat back what they just said, just in a neutral way, or even to just help them ask the right question of what's significant. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. And I think that's also why I'm attracted to cranial sacral, because it's so dynamic. It's not what do they call it, massage world, where you just kind of are following a protocol or you have a specific flow of the way you like to do things. And this really kind of takes those training wheels off and really requires you to adjust yourself to your client, right? Like let them take the lead and learn what are they responding to and what are they not. And it's not a one size fits all. It is really just an exploration on both people's part to meet each other and interface. So yeah.
Very neat.
Yeah.
Someday I'm gonna drive down to Dallas and try cranial sacral with you
Yeah,
whenever my schedule's not crazy busy.
yeah. No, we need to plan just like a little friend get together or something. Like maybe we can do that for,
Yes.
Chelsea's life party anniversary or something
Oh,
in
that would be
December.
really cool. And for any listeners, I interviewed Chelsea. She's my first interview, and you can go back and listen. It's the second episode. And yeah, beautiful, beautiful soul. I understand one of her songs she wrote for you. Can you speak on
Yeah.
that?
Yes. Yeah, that was so yeah, interesting enough, for as much as I cried, there's been like a handful of times I've ever cried tears of happiness. And she was
Oh,
the second time I ever cried tears of happiness. But she wrote me this song. We went to Flip Side, and which is, for Burning Man people, it's like our regional burn in Texas is Flipside. And I remember she's just like, "Oh, Sarah, you inspired me," and kind of tying back into, the first part of the story we talked about today was taking that journey, right, and giving up your things and leaving a life because it's not for you. And I just like sobbed. I was like, that was so beautiful, like for her to have found such an inspiration, right? Because that was also like, I remember a very specific conversation with her and her making that choice to leave this chance to go this corporate life or to pursue her music. And I invited her to go to Open Stage, which used to be a little like community talent show. And I brought her flowers and and it was just really beautiful to like have that exchange where she encouraged me to go to my first ayahuasca ceremony, and I was able to encourage her to really embrace her music. And so that's, I think, where the richness of our sisterhood is between her and I. And so journey, like one of my favorite lines in that is, you'll walk away but it's not really leaving, it's an embrace.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
For all my listeners, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. Instead of just leaving you with my little words, I will play a song afterwards so you can hear Journey On that was written specifically for Sarah. So definitely stay tuned till the end so you can hear a really awesome song if you haven't already gone to Chelsea's YouTube page that still exists with all of her beautiful music that like hits you at a soul level.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like too, like Elisha, because I think of you often, and we have another mutual friend, Laura, right? Like just
Yeah.
how incredibly they shared their medicine in the world, and like having the opportunity to spark that in other people is such an amazing gift. Like I don't know, just what is that like to witness so many miracles in your life,
Yeah.
right? And to pass on their legacy, like, is such an important thing. And I also just want to commend you because I see you out there doing that too. And my sister.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
But it's
Oh,
just, yeah, because it's something that's just bigger and just way more meaningful than any old narrative of our life,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, it really has been a beautiful coming to meet other soul people, like, just having a recognition and saying, man, how many lives have we lived together? And then we get to see each other and like have this bonded, like you said, sisterhood with one another. And we get to share pieces of ourselves and help uplift one another. And then our two friends that passed that, like you said, they left a legacy. Chelsea was 33, Laura was 40. Like that's young. That's really
Yeah,
young,
yeah.
but also so incredible what you can do with your life when you live from your heart center and you live to serve other people through that heart center, and it touches people in ways that have a complete domino effect.
Yeah.
And then once you feel inspired, then you go out and start living your life from your heart. And then you start touching other people, and they go out and start living their lives from their heart. Like, I believe that this is how we change the world. Like, we're coming into ourselves and learning how to get out of the head, get into the heart, feel into the body, and then becoming service to those around us through whatever it is that we feel passionate about, or something that's touched our lives that we want to share with the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a beautiful, like I say, privilege. It's a
Mm-hmm.
privilege to witness it. And that's all you really have to do is just be a witness. Like,
Yeah.
how wonderful is that? Like, I don't, you mean I don't have to go fix the world? I can just witness all of these pieces of the puzzles fall into place of where they're truly meant to be. Like, oh, it takes such a load off my back, anyways.
When you said that, I just felt like I felt lighter, even in my own self. Just, you don't have to. You just stand back and witness, and then you just be you on your
Yeah.
own journey, whatever that is, and whatever the processes are. Wow, so beautiful. Well, do you have anything that we haven't touched on that's part of your story you wanted to talk about?
Um, oh gosh. I feel complete for today. I think I'll definitely look at writing that book one day.
Please
I
do.
mean, but that's, even just speaking about stories, like really, maybe this is something I can also share as a wisdom. Because I've been talking about evolution, right? And I got to share this like really hurtful story with somebody yesterday, but like remembering my teaching of that is the only time I choose to tell this story is if it's medicine, because it's no longer my victim story. And
Mm,
that flip from victim to like, the empowerment in that of really being able to like break through a hurtful event in that way, I think is truly liberating and a reclamation of my energy too. And so I also just want to put that out there too. Is like maybe some stories aren't meant to be shared until we can reclaim ourselves from them and really learn what needs to be learned once the lesson's complete. And then that can be your medicine. And so again, coming back to the big risk taking, like please choose your own adventure. Buy the ticket, take the ride, make the mess, do the hurt, receive the hurt, and just live your life and your full, beautiful expression of who you are. That's all I got.
you answered my last question before I asked it.
Oh, cool.
I ask everybody, if there's a bit of wisdom you want to leave the audience with, but that is so true. And um, I don't think we should talk about things until we're ready to talk about them
Yeah.
and share with people, because it can bring up points of vulnerability if you haven't worked through it. And so it is the working through. Maybe you talk to a therapist about it, or somebody that's trusted or in a really safe space, but to share something more publicly or with people, and allowing that to be a story that pinpoints a through way that you
Yeah,
went in your life and something that you've overcome is really powerful.
absolutely. And yeah, I just want to acknowledge my whole team of people as I talk about I support people. Like that has been another healing point of like how much support I actually needed, and feeling okay to receive that. But yeah, it's true. Like we need all of each other. Like our nets you know, are an essential piece of this human life. So if I can help be a string in the net, a thread, like I'm happy to. So yeah, and I'm happy to receive my net too.
Yes. Oh, I love that analogy. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. You had so much wisdom. I learned so much from you today, not just about your life, but things that you shared. You could be teaching some classes at some point too, with some of this amazing wisdom that you've learned.
Thank
So
you.
I
And
appreciate
one,
your presence.
thank you. One day I'm going to interview you.
Heck yeah, I'm here for it. You just let me know.
Okay.
And to my audience, as you embrace your humanness, be you, be kind, and remember that everything is part of the journey.
Lonely road, when you know where you're going, pack your bags, dreams, memories. They don't know my heart any better than when we met here in this place. And sometimes in the night, when I feel so slight, I remember I belong. So go, you satellite. This world needs your light. Just remember where you come from and journey on, and journey on. We'll journey on. Whoa. Sad but sure, it won't get any better if I stay in past remains. Be assured, no matter how great the measure, you'll find yourself. Oh, you'll know your name. And sometimes in the night, when I feel so slight, I remember I belong. So go, you satellite. This world needs your light. And just remember where you come from and journey on, and journey on. So journey on.